other options, right? We have to talk about it, so we just have to be honest with each other and talk about prayer tonight, because there's nothing else you can say, right? You have to talk about it. So I think in one way, it's time to get real. And here's the question. Does prayer change God's mind, or does prayer change our mind? Or are we even correct in asking or saying that God has a mind, right? Or is that an anthropomorphism of our own belief and our own understanding of God? This gospel pericope, actually, it's only 8 verses long, but it can lead us down a theological road that could go on for years and years. And that's not a bad thing. It could be excellent to talk about prayer that long. But tonight we need to focus, right? Tonight we need to focus on what is the theology that we have of prayer, or how do we understand it? My friends, theology is a verbal or written expression of our belief or our understanding of the divine or God, right? That's what theology is. It's really simple. You're all theologians because you all talk about God in some way, shape, or form, right? We're all theologians. Some more, some less. It just all depends on how much you talk about God. But those questions that we outlined are at the very beginning, does prayer change God's mind or does prayer change ours? Those are actually really good theological questions. One of the greatest disciplines in theology teaches us that really good theology ought to leave us standing in the very face of mystery, peering into the infinity of God, rather than being a source of the answers of God. Get that again. Really good theology leaves us standing in the face of mystery, peering into the infinity of God, rather than being the source of all the answers of God. What you and I do throughout our lives is we get snippets, right? Snippets of truth, snippets of insight, snippets of understanding, snippets of mystery. We get insights into them. You know, your life is filled with them. My life is filled with them. We all get them. You get those and you go, aha, right? Those moments. We all get them, but they're only little bits. They're only little experiences of being human and being spiritual. We rarely, if we're really honest with each other, we rarely see the really big picture. If you doubt what I'm saying is, just ask yourselves, some of us are probably a little older than 40. Okay? So, 40 years ago when we looked at the solar system, we had one idea, right? I know what mine was. It was a classroom and it had a chain and it had all the planets and they all went around each other. Right? It was a cool thing to do. But then came the Hubble telescope. Like, blow your mind, right? You got to see all kinds of things that we never saw before. And we started talking about black holes, which we never talked about. And then all of a sudden, we got the Webb telescope. And it puts the Hubble telescope to It's rare that you and I really have the really, really big picture of things. We're pretty myopic, right? We pretty much live in this piece of the world. It has been said, at least in theological circles, that if we understood even one iota of the immensity of God and God's love for us, that weight would be so much it would crush us. We couldn't withstand the immensity of God. So then we come back to that question that we asked at the very beginning. Does prayer change us, or does prayer change God? Now, one of my daughters, as you know, will shortly be finishing law school, and from her and several other very close friends, with whom I have the pleasure of knowing and walking and living through this whole journey of faith, who happen to be lawyers as well, I asked them that fundamental question, maybe not directly, but over time. And I've taken that question to advisement. And here's the answer. Does prayer change God, or does prayer change us? The answer? You ready? It depends. Susan, it depends. And isn't that a great answer? Because that answer acknowledges one very fundamental and very important fact that is reiterated throughout Scripture and reiterated throughout tradition and reiterated by science itself. The fact is this: prayer changes something, right? I don't know if it changes God or if it changes us, but it changes something. That's what that question actually leads us to look at. So let's take a look at that a little bit. Does prayer change God? To which, from my perspective at least, as a theologian and as a bishop and as a priest and as a deacon and as a father and as a husband, as a chaplain and as a dad and as a child of God, I would say yes, prayer changes God. We all know it, and we either doubt or we celebrate the miracles that we have experienced or read about in our lives, right? Either in our own or others. Sometimes we believe those miracles were the result of prayer, either my own or yours or somebody else's, or a prayer chain or the intercession of a saint, right? And that may be so. And at the same time, we have to be very careful about how we articulate that belief. Why? Because what does it say about all those people who prayed for all those miracles that did not happen, right? Does it mean that they have less faith? Does it mean that God cared more about them and less about us? Or less about them and more about us? Or what's that? You have to be very careful about how we understand and even how we say that. I honestly don't believe that that means anything of truth for us as people. I do know this: a miracle is a miracle. And just in that fact alone, our limited human understanding prevents us from knowing who, how, why, where that miracle took place. That is a miracle. It is a mystery, and it throws us directly into it. Miracles, my friends, don't answer questions. Miracles do not answer questions. Miracles place us directly in front of the mirror of mystery and leave us standing there all alone, usually weeping with tears of joy and gratitude. That's what a miracle does. Leaves you standing there breathless and unable to explain anything. So, does prayer change God? Yeah. Does prayer change us? To which, from my own perspective again, both as a theologian, a bishop, a priest, a deacon, we can go through all this, father, husband, chaplain, dad, child of God, yes, prayer changes us. I've personally been transformed by prayer, both my own and the prayer of others, and the prayer for others, and the prayer by others for me, and the prayers that we have collectively prayed here in this community and in liturgy. And I know that those prayers have changed people, changed lives, changed experiences. I know my own heart has been changed. I know my own life has been changed. And I know in many ways, because I've seen it, I've seen us change the world by our prayer. And if I'm being 100% transparent and honest, I can't tell you how or why those prayers or those experiences of prayers accomplished what they did. I just know in my very being, right in my gut, I know that they did. I have prayed in my own life and seen resentments that I have held fall away. Now, I have to tell you, there's a little trick in recovery circles. You know, they say we have to let go of resentments. Well, that's not always easy to do, right? So my sponsor says, pray for the desire to let go of the resentment. So sometimes I have to work on that. I just got to pray that far, you know, like just get me to wanting to, because right now I have this huge resentment. But I have seen over the years that actually work. In my own life, I have actually seen myself let go of a resentment which I didn't even want to let go of in the very first place. I've seen people, and I've been with people in the process of dying who have been absolutely miserable, and then when we actually pray with them and we say, you know what, you can let go, their face just turns like totally peaceful and they let go. And it's okay. And it's like I have seen that prayer be that transformative. I have seen the discipline of prayer transform my life and the lives of many others. down to my very spiritual being. I do know this, that the discipline of prayer has helped me, and I'm sure it's helped you in your own lives, to become and be better, more centered, more focused, more gracious people. In 2004, I know this is a little while ago, but it was a great film. In 2004, you might be able to Netflix it. There was a film published called What the Bleep. I know, I didn't say it in church. What the Bleep. In that film, Dr. Emoto, Dr. Emoto was this doctor that studied water and its effect on words and words on water and what it did and how it reacted, right? And I know a lot of his stuff has been discounted and discredited, etc., over the time, but there is one undeniable fact that came from his research, and it's this, that words matter. Words matter, and how we speak those words about, to, and with each other matter. If you think about it, if words didn't matter, the church wouldn't be worried about heretics or schismatics or any other mean, nasty words that are spoken about those in leadership about other people in leadership who are willing to ask the questions. Right? If words didn't matter. So, it's quite true. Words matter. So does prayer change us? Or does prayer change God? It depends. But one thing is absolutely certain. Prayer changes things. No matter what, prayer changes things. So maybe developing a discipline of prayer in our lives would be a good thing. And it doesn't, my friends, have to be all complex and all complicated, and you don't have to have a liturgy of the hours and know all that junk and all that stuff. You don't have to do all that. We just have to develop a discipline of prayer, of taking time consciously every day to spend and be with our God, however that is for us in our lives. I mean, what the heck? Go ahead and pray. Just waste some time hanging out with God. It might change us. And it might change God. It depends. My dear friend, Dr. Ron Bell, said this: there is one absolutely undisputable fact. Everything changes with change.